our next guest into the Daily Connerton Memorial Company interview chair is not Braveheart, nor is he Mel Gibson, nor is he Richie Havens, for that matter. But he is fighting for freedom and liberty at the state capitol every day. As I say, good morning. It is Gary Byron. Let's welcome back to the show. It's been a while since we've had him on. State Senator Rob Sampson. Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Representative. Glad to join you. And you're right. It's been far too long, and I apologize that I have not been as available for you as I'd like to be.
Listen, we don't hold stuff like that against anybody. Are you kidding me? We're the ones that are blessed. We're the ones that are very fortunate to have you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. And I know you're very popular. I know that you're very busy up at the Capitol as well as doing constituent services. Let's not forget that. That's year round. I think, and maybe you can attest to this, I would always hear from people, oh, Gary, it's a part-time legislature, and on top of it, you've got one of your years is even a short session. So, it can't be that difficult. And what they don't understand is the constituent service is not only is it year-round, but you're juggling many different constituents. It's not one at a time. You're juggling many at the same time. It's not just the work that we did within the walls of the state capitol.
You're absolutely right about that. Thank you for your kind words, by the way. And you're totally right. The job is what you make of it. There are certainly some folks that get elected and they put in the bare minimum. They show up only to the meetings that they need to. They don't particularly get engaged in a lot of conversation. They put their votes in and they go home. And there are other folks that see it as an opportunity. I know you did when you were there, and I certainly do. An opportunity to actually make change and to realize our worldview. I mean, that's what politics is. It's the idea that we want to have the world in the future, work out in the way we would like. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle between, different views of what we want the world to be. And sadly, in this state, there are very few people, pushing hard for a conservative worldview. And that's why it's important that the folks get elected as Republicans. They've got to do extra work because we've got to, make up for the fact that we're outnumbered 2-1. And I try hard every day to do that.
I know you do. But now that the bustle of the committee process is pretty much wrapping up, we hope to get you on a little bit more frequently. What I wanted to talk a little bit about this morning, though, with you, Senator, is bad bills. And I know you're probably saying to yourself, Gary, we only have, 15 minutes here. We don't have, 15 hours or 15 days is probably more like it. But let's at least chip away at some of this. You're the ranking senator on the Housing Committee. By the way, I was on that committee my first term. Oh, my goodness. I couldn't wait to get off of it. My second term, I became the ranking member of the Aging Committee. But that Housing Committee, God bless you, man. I tell you, that I was never really enjoyed that committee. And here you are, the ranking senator on it. What communist ideas are emerging from that committee? A little Freudian slip there, but
I don't know if you know, Gary, but I am actually ranking member on 3 committees: housing, labor, and election.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I mean, talk about the the draw. But I volunteered, those are the places where I think we're going to have the most controversy, the ones where there are indeed communist bills coming through. Think about how many bills actually go through the legislature every year. I mean, it might be 1,000 bills being proposed in a session. We probably vote on half of those. So keeping track of all these things is very difficult. And I would say the majority of them are bad. I mean, there are elements of almost every bill that are being that altered. I mean, it's a slow and steady expansion of government at minimum, and other things that are just completely egregious. There is a terrible housing bill, now that you mention it, called Senate Bill 4, which is a combination of things. So, the first part of it is all about punishing landlords. I think that there is a element within the Connecticut Democrat Party that believes that they have to appease, tenant organizations. There's tenant unions being formed in places like Hamden. And so they're trying to show off and say, look how tough we are on these landlords. So they have all these new requirements limiting the amount of security deposits, saying that you can't evict someone, even for any kind of cause, whether it's non-payment or the lease runs out or they're violating the lease in some other way. Even if they were a nuisance, according to the law, you can't evict a person for the 4 winter months. Effectively, ruining an arrangement that a landlord might have to be able to reclaim their property and make it, a going concern again. Restricting the rental applications, saying that you can't charge someone for a background check until after you present them with the results, even if you're denying them. Imagine that you're going to say, "Oh, sir, I can't accept your application. Your credit didn't work out well enough. And by the way, I need the fee for that." Do you think they're going to pay at that point? It's just a collection of a lot of bad policy, designed really for a political statement to say that they are going after landlords in a big way. And the other aspect of the housing committee is all this affordable housing stuff, which I don't know if you want to get into, but the state government really has a desire to override local planning and zoning and control how housing is built in the state. And it's extremely dangerous.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so let me make sure I get this straight. If a tenant has not paid his or her bills in, let's say 6 months, 5 months, 6 months, and we just happen to be encroaching upon the winter season, but it's been 5 or 6 months, not 1 or 2, 5 or 6. And I want to be clear with that, with our listeners. Are you telling me that the landlord, who probably still has a monthly nut to pay a mortgage, if you will, on that property, I mean, he's the one that's getting shafted, the landlord, I should say. Are you telling me that landlord just can't evict that person and get a more responsible tenant in who will pay the monthly rent? Is that true? Am I hearing that correctly?
That is absolutely their intention, and they know it's not workable. They know that it's not just or proper. And again, I'm not here to take the position of the landlord. I'm here to take the position of fairness. If either party of an agreement, fails to live up to their end of a contract, then they should be held accountable. But this is just, a power grab. And it's symbolic of what's going on in Hartford, which is a constant and steady erosion of individual liberties. They're going after our property rights. I think I mentioned to you last time I was on, we were talking about some crazy proposed bills. They have these bills that effectively say that you don't own your own body. The mandatory, what's that when you give up your organs? Oh, mandatory organ ownership.
Organ ownership, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like this. It's just they're slowly but surely telling you, you don't really own your own property. We're allowing you to use it for whatever purpose until we say otherwise. You don't really own your body. We own your body and your children. That's the other aspect of what's going on, I think, in a big way, is they are slowly but surely steadily encroaching on parents' rights by creating policy that allows administrators in schools to do things with your children without your knowledge. All this LGBTQ stuff we're hearing about. I mean, that's a real thing. And there are bills like that going right through Connecticut legislature, just like across the country.
Is it true that you no longer have to leave, let's say, a 2-month security deposit, like 1 month will suffice? Or I thought I read something about that.
Well, they do have a bill that would limit security deposits to 1 month only. And I can tell you, just from being a realtor and a small landlord myself, that's impossible. I mean, if you're dealing with, rents that are, $1,000, $1,500 a month, something like that. I mean, what does it take to cause $1,500 worth of damage? Absolutely nothing, to be honest with you. I had a tenant leave me not too long ago, and they left me so much garbage in the house that I had to get a dumpster. Just between the dumpster and my own time and effort, picking everything up and, grabbing all this stuff and putting in the dumpster, I mean, you're talking $1,000 right there. I mean, let alone any damage to the property. A countertop might cost more than $1,500. So it's completely unfair. It's crazy because on one hand, the Democrats are screaming that there's a housing shortage in Connecticut. There's not enough affordable housing. We have to do something, blah, blah, blah. But at the other side, they're also attacking housing providers, making it so difficult to be in that industry and putting you so far behind the 8 ball that you can't really even do an effective job of screening your tenants because they're trying to limit your ability to do so and managing the situation. And as I said, on the eviction piece, it's not just for non-payment. It is also for if the lease runs out. What if the lease runs out in December? You still can't evict the person. If they say, no, I'm staying until April, sorry. There's nothing you can do anymore.
Even if you have it rented, like you're leaving and I got a new tenant coming in. And then you hear what Biden wants to do, with people who've got great credit scores and are responsible adults. Basically, what is it? Giving it to, you're getting punished. You're getting penalized.
Yeah, they want to raise the interest rate for people that have
good
better credit and more responsible activity paying their bills.
I don't get that.
It's madness. It's completely upside down, and it's obvious. I mean, if anybody is still wondering whether or not the Democrat Party still represents the values of this country, all you have to do is look at some of these things. These are completely contradictory and the opposite of what America is. It's communism. It
is. Thank you.
Because it took me a long time to come around to start using the word, but it is communist. As a matter of fact, I have never seen as much as I have this year, Gary, people coming to the Capitol and testifying before the various committees and announcing to the committee that they are communists or they're a member of the Communist Party of Connecticut. Never. I mean, one or two in the past, but this year it's been a pretty strong showing from those folks.
Before I take a quick break, you're also, you said you're on the Government Administration and Elections Committee. What should we be concerned about in that committee? And really, what's the latest about this early voting? You and I have had this conversation on this show, I think maybe several months ago. Like, what's early voting? That's very vague. What's new out of that committee?
Right. I'm glad you pointed that out. That was the biggest concern I had, through the entire debate over the last several years before it was adopted, which is that they weren't telling anyone. This is early voting. Right. I used to say it's the free lunch amendment. It's like, oh, that sounds great until you find out what the lunch is. But it's looking like it's going to be 14 days of early voting, and that includes 14 days for referendums. And actually, there's maybe a shorter period for referendums, 5 days of early voting. Maybe a shorter period for primaries, too. But the problem here is that we're not set up for this. These local town clerks and registrars are going to have an extremely difficult time managing this situation, and I don't know where the money's coming from yet.
All right, let me take a really short break, and then we'll come right back with State Senator Rob Sampson. Stay with us. 4 minutes now after the hour of 9. It was 23. It just changed over. Look at that. Our guest, State Senator Rob Sampson. Rob, you represent in your district the town of Wolcott, and apparently there was an installation of a machine that dispenses menstrual products inside a boys' restroom within the Wolcott School District. I mean, all right, I don't understand. If this has something to do with gays and lesbians, even transgender. There's a transgender person that calls this show fairly regularly. Biologically a male, but identifies as a female. Although I have to say, not only conservative, but pretty damn conservative in her politics. But she'll even say that, no, Gary, I can't menstruate. I'm biologically a male. What? Even with people who change clothes and put makeup on and biologically a male and want to dress as a woman and whatever, not hurting my life. Whatever they do in their personal life has nothing to do with me. I don't understand what is this purpose? What is this going to do? I mean, they're not going to menstruate. What are they trying to accomplish with these feminine hygiene products in a boy's bathroom?
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. I first start by saying that this is actually a state law that is going to affect every public school in the state of Connecticut. It's not just the town of Wolcott. It passed as part of a larger budget document in 2022. And I'll note that every Republican in the House voted against this bill, and all but one Republican voted against the bill in the Senate, for this and for other reasons. And it just becomes effective as of September of this year. So I'm thinking that the Wolcott school system, became aware of this requirement, and they just tried to live up to it, early. And that's why it became apparent. And, I guess, a student came home and mentioned to their parents, and suddenly you have, the communities blowing up online, et cetera. And Representative Mastro Francesco, who's the state representative here, and my dear friend and I, we put out a press release, explaining that we are opposed to this policy. The big issue here, Gary, is that this is not about respecting the rights of other people to live as they choose. Because I know you would agree with me that we don't care. As long as you're not bothering me, go ahead, do whatever the heck you want.
I just went on the record and said that. I've said it many times. Yeah.
Right. This difference here is that you have the state government using the force of law, first to make a mandate on local boards of education, which they got no business doing. This should be a town issue. But to make a policy for political purposes. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a statement that the LGBTQ lifestyle is perfectly acceptable and should be addressed in every school across Connecticut, regardless of how the local community feels about it. And that's wrong. They got no business making mandates like that, and they should not be pushing a worldview on folks that are unsuspecting because they live.
What are they going to do with the tampon? Where does this go? What do they do with this?
Right. I mean, there's no purpose for it. Obviously,
no.
I mean,
it's a waste of money.
Yeah, you put something in a boy's bathroom in a school, and it's very likely to be the subject of vandalism.
So, are they going to build urinals in the women's room?
Yeah, no, it's madness. So there is no logical explanation for it, and there doesn't need to be. They're making a political statement. We need to see that for what it is, and we need to address that for what it is. And when they come back and they say that people that are opposed are somehow intolerant or they're unconcerned with the freedom of those folks, we have to correct them immediately and say, look, this is not about freedom. This is about forcing an agenda that many people disagree with. But you see it everywhere. I mean, almost every bill that comes through the legislature these days has got some sort of attachment that has to do with the acceptance of the transgender lifestyle or, renaming a mother to pregnant person. It's just unbelievable, what they're doing. That, and race-based stuff is the other thing. Almost every bill has got some sort of structured quota system based on race. I was brought up that we judge people on merit. But not the Connecticut Democrats don't think so. They want to make everybody boiled down into their sex, their race, and treat them like they're cogs in the machine. Oh, we're missing a Hispanic female. Go get one. It's ridiculous. People are more than that.
What is
People
this?
This are individuals with their own individual skills and experience, and they should be treated that way.
Yeah, this is like one of the '90s ads for the United Colors of Benetton. Remember that brand? All right. How about a quick lightning round? Real short, 1 or 2 word answers. Brought to you, of course, by the Communist Party. Are we going to give illegal aliens in prison inmates the right to vote? Yes or no?
They're trying, but I hope not.
Are we going to raise the age for free health care to undocumented immigrants to 26?
I would say almost certainly, but I'll be voting no for sure.
Are we going to ban gas stoves?
I doubt that's going to happen, but again, they are trying.
Okay. Are we going to create a task force to study reparations?
I'm pretty certain that one's going to happen also, and obviously that is not a just thing to do.
No. Are we going to hire more enforcement agents to audit our taxes?
I don't know where that bill stands, but that wouldn't surprise me either, and I will be a no.
Are we going to pay unemployment to workers who are on strike?
I'm going to say no, because I was able, as ranking member of the Labor Committee, to block that bill in the past,
Good.
and I plan on doing the same this year.
Who was the senator that voted for that bill that you mentioned a moment ago? The Republican senator.
I'd rather not throw them under a bus.
Okay.
You can look it up pretty easily, though.
All right. Rob, as always, brother, thanks for your time. Keep up the good fight. We need you.
It's always my pleasure, Gary. Thanks for having me.
You got it. When we come back...